The Montana night was as dark as space itself, with rain hammering down through the thick pine forest. Lightning split the sky, illuminating a small, sleek spacecraft that was definitely not made on Earth. Smoke poured from its engines as it careened through the trees, leaving a trail of broken branches in its wake. Inside the craft, Kalira gripped her controls tightly, her four-fingered hands struggling to stabilize the ship. Warning lights flashed across her blue-tinted skin as another system failed. She had been so careful, staying high in Earth's atmosphere to study the humans from a safe distance. But the storm had caught her by surprise, and now she was paying the price. "Computer, emergency landing protocols," she shouted, her translator automatically converting her musical Zextheri language into basic ship commands. The computer beeped in response, but it was too late. A massive pine tree loomed ahead, and there was nowhere left to go. The impact sent Kalira flying forward. Pain exploded across her chest as she hit the control panel. Through the cracked view screen, she watched tree branches scrape against the hull until her ship finally skidded to a stop in a small clearing. Kalira touched her side, and her hand came away wet with purple blood. A piece of the control panel had broken off and cut deep into her ribs. She tried to stand but collapsed back into her chair, her vision blurring. Every young Zextheri learned about humans in their early training. They were shown videos of humans hunting animals, of their wars, of their violent sports. "If a human finds you," her instructor had warned, "they will cut you open to see how you work. They will put you in a lab and perform tests until you die. Better to take your own life than fall into their hands." Kalira's trembling hand reached for the small silver pill attached to her collar, the death pill that every scout carried. But before she could grab it, she heard something that made her heart stop. Footsteps crunching through the wet leaves outside. A beam of light swept across her ship's broken hull. Kalira tried again to reach her pill, but she was too weak. The blood loss was making her dizzy. Through the cracked view screen, she saw a human approaching. It was tall, like all humans, with dark hair and what her species would consider too many fingers. It wore some kind of thick green jacket against the rain. "Hello," a deep voice called out. "Anyone in there? I saw you come down. I'm here to help." Kalira wanted to laugh at that obvious lie. Help. Humans didn't help. They destroyed. They experimented. They killed. But she couldn't even muster the strength to be properly afraid anymore. The human approached closer, and she could see it was a male. He carried some kind of bag over his shoulder, and his light revealed a concerned expression on his face. That had to be fake, Kalira thought, just like the predators on her homeworld that looked harmless before they struck. "I'm a medic," the human said, moving carefully toward the damaged hull. "I'm going to get you out of there, okay? Just stay calm." Kalira's vision was fading to black around the edges. Her last conscious thought was that at least she wouldn't be awake when the human started cutting her apart. The darkness took her just as she heard the sound of metal groaning, and strong hands reaching in to pull her from the wreckage. The first thing Kalira noticed when she woke up was that she wasn't dead. The second thing was that she wasn't strapped to a metal table in some secret government lab. Instead, she was lying on something soft and warm, covered with what humans called a blanket. Her eyes fluttered open to find herself in a wooden room. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Her translator was still working, letting her understand the quiet music playing from somewhere, something about mountains and country roads. Kalira tried to sit up but gasped as pain shot through her side. Looking down, she saw clean white bandages wrapped around her torso. Someone had treated her wound, but they hadn't cut her open to study her organs. That didn't make any sense. "Easy there," a calm voice said from across the room. It was the human from before, sitting in a chair with something steaming in his hands. "You've got 3 broken ribs and a nasty cut. Best to take it slow." Kalira's hand immediately went to her collar, but the death pill was gone. Fear gripped her chest as she looked at the human. "I had to take that off you," he said, noticing her movement. You kept trying to grab it while you were delirious with fever. I figured it wasn't medicine you wanted to take." He set down his cup and held up his hands. "I'm Marcus Chen, former combat medic, current wilderness guide. And you're safe here." "Safe? With a human?" Kalira wanted to laugh, but it would hurt too much. Where are the others?" she asked, her translator converting her words to English. Marcus raised an eyebrow at the electronic voice, but didn't seem surprised. "No others. Just me. My cabin's pretty remote. That's why I like it. Nearest town's 20 miles away." He stood up slowly, telegraphing his movements like he was approaching a wounded animal, which, Kalira supposed, wasn't far from the truth. He picked up a bowl from a nearby table and brought it closer, setting it down within her reach, but keeping his distance. "It's just soup," he said. "Chicken noodle. Though, I'm not sure if you can eat earth food. But you've been out for almost 2 days, and you need something." Kalira stared at him. 2 days. He'd had 2 days to call his government, to hand her over to scientists, to do anything he wanted. Instead, he bandaged her wounds and made her soup. "Why?" she managed to ask. Marcus sat back down in his chair. "Why what? Why help me? Why not? Study me. Cut me open. That's what humans do." A look of understanding crossed Marcus's face, followed by something like sadness. "Is that what your people think of us?" He shook his head. "I'm a medic. Have been since I was 22. When someone's hurt, I help them. Doesn't matter if they're human or not." Thunder rumbled outside, making Kalira flinch. Marcus glanced at the window where rain still poured down. "Storm's been going for 3 days now. Roads are probably flooded. So looks like we're stuck with each other for a bit." He gave her a gentle smile. "Maybe we can use that time to learn we're not the monsters we think each other are." Kalira looked at the soup, then back at Marcus. Everything she knew said this had to be a trick, but she was alive, breathing, and unharmed. For the first time, she wondered if everything she knew about humans might be wrong. 3 days had passed since Kalira first woke up in Marcus's cabin. The storm had finally cleared, leaving behind a fresh, clean smell in the air. Kalira sat by the window, watching Earth's single sun rise over the mountains, painting the sky in colors she'd never seen on her homeworld. "Tea?" Marcus asked, offering her a steaming cup. After careful testing, they discovered she could safely drink earth beverages, though solid food was still questionable. "Thank you," she said, her translator converting the words. They'd fallen into a strange but comfortable routine. Marcus would check her wounds in the morning, tell her stories about Earth during the day, and answer her endless questions about humans at night. Today, though, something was bothering her. "Marcus," she said, setting down her cup. "Yesterday, you could have taken a picture of me when I was sleeping. Proved to your world that aliens exist. You would be famous. Rich. Why didn't you?" Marcus leaned against the wall, thinking. "Would you believe me if I said it wouldn't be right? Right? What does right have to do with advantage? Everything." Marcus sat down across from her. "Look, where I served as a medic, I saw a lot of people take advantage of those weaker than them. It never made anything better. Never made the world better." He gestured to her bandaged side. "You were hurt. Scared. Taking advantage of that. It would make me less human, not more." Kalira's translator struggled with some of the concepts, but she understood the feeling behind his words. "On my world, showing weakness to another species is shameful. If my people knew I survived because of a human's help," she shuddered, "they would end my life themselves." Marcus's face darkened. "That's messed up. Needing help isn't weakness. It's just being alive. Everything needs help sometimes. Trees need rain, birds need wind, humans need each other. But doesn't that make you vulnerable?" "Sure does." Marcus grinned. "And that vulnerability is exactly what makes us strong. Because we know we need help, we learn to help each other. We build communities, share knowledge, grow together. That's how humans went from caves to space in just a few thousand years. Kalira looked down at her healing wound. My people have always seen humans as dangerous because you advance so quickly. We thought it was because you were aggressive, violent. She touched the bandages gently. But maybe it's this instead. This helping each other. A comfortable silence fell between them. Outside, birds started their morning songs, a sound Kalira had grown to love. Then her scanner, salvaged from the crash, started beeping. Her heart nearly stopped when she saw the reading. Marcus, she whispered, fear making her translator crackle. A Zextheri recovery ship just entered Earth's atmosphere. They're looking for me. Marcus straightened, instantly alert. Friends of yours? Kalira shook her head, trembling. No, they're coming to eliminate all evidence of the crash, including me. Including? She looked at Marcus with horror. Including any humans who might have seen me. Instead of showing fear, Marcus's face set in a determined expression she'd never seen before. He walked to a closet and pulled out a large backpack. Then we better get moving. I know these mountains better than anyone. Even your people's fancy scanners won't find us if we don't want to be found. You would help me again, even knowing it puts you in danger. Marcus threw her a spare jacket. That's what humans do. We help. Now, can you walk? The mountain air grew thinner as Marcus led Kalira higher into the wilderness. They'd been hiking for 6 hours, taking narrow paths that seemed to disappear into the landscape. Kalira's side ached, but she didn't complain. The pain meant she was alive, and alive meant she had a chance. Down, Marcus suddenly whispered, pulling her behind a large boulder. Seconds later, a low hum filled the air as a Zextheri scout ship passed overhead. Its sleek silver hull glinted in the sunlight, so different from Marcus's wooden cabin and Earth's rugged nature. That's the third flayover in 2 hours, Marcus muttered, checking his compass. They're searching in a grid pattern, getting more thorough. He pulled out a worn paper map, something Kalira found amusingly primitive, but had to admit was useful. It couldn't be tracked like electronic devices. Kalira's scanner beeped softly. They're using bioscanners now, she said, her translator catching slightly on the technical terms. Looking for my specific genetic signature. She looked at Marcus with worried eyes. You should leave me. They're not looking for humans yet. You could still. Not happening. Marcus cut her off, studying the map. There's an old mining cave system about 2 miles north. The mineral deposits should mess with their scanners. We just need tow. He stopped as Kalira's scanner let out a different tone. Her purple-tinted face went pale. Marcus, they found the cabin. Marcus peered carefully over the boulder. Even from this distance, they could see the flash of white light as the recovery team's weapons reduced his home to atoms, leaving nothing but a smoking crater. Well, he said with forced lightness, guess I needed to redecorate anyway. Kalira stared at him in disbelief. They just destroyed everything you own. Your home. All because you helped me. How can you make jokes? Because getting angry won't help us survive. He checked his backpack. Besides, home isn't about the building. It's about. He trailed off, then shook his head. We need to move. They'll expand their search from the cabin site. They pressed on, Marcus choosing paths that kept them under tree cover. Kalira noticed he always walked on the outside edge of trails, keeping himself between her and any drop-offs. It was such a simple gesture of protection, but it made her throat tight with emotion. The sun was setting when they reached the cave entrance, hidden behind a curtain of vines. Marcus pulled out a flashlight as they ventured inside. The walls glittered with streaks of copper and iron, and the air felt cool and damp. This goes back about half a mile, Marcus explained. Multiple chambers, 2 exits. The metal content shoaled. A blast of energy struck the cave wall near them, sending rocks flying. At the entrance, 3 Zextheri soldiers stood with weapons raised, their silver armor gleaming in the dying sunlight. Traitor, the lead soldier said in their native tongue. which Kalira's translator broadcast for Marcus's benefit. You shame our entire species by running with this primitive. Marcus stepped in front of Kalira, despite her attempt to push him aside. The lead soldier laughed, the sound like breaking glass. How touching, the soldier said. The primitive tries to protect you, as if it could stop us from completing our mission. He raised his weapon. For the purity of the Zextheri race, you will both be cleansed. Marcus didn't hesitate. As the Zextheri soldier's weapon charged up with a high-pitched whine, he grabbed Kalira and dove behind a large boulder. The energy blast hit where they'd been standing, turning the rock floor molten red. Primitive but not stupid, Marcus muttered, reaching into his backpack. Kalira expected him to pull out a weapon, but instead, he took out a small metal canister. What are you? She started to ask, but Marcus was already moving. Cover your eyes, he shouted, throwing the canister toward the cave entrance. A brilliant flash lit up the cave, followed by the sound of Zextheri soldiers crying out in pain. Their species' sensitive eyes, evolved for their dim homeworld, were temporarily blinded by the emergency flare. Marcus grabbed Kalira's hand. Run. The back exit. They sprinted deeper into the cave system, Marcus's flashlight beam bouncing off the walls. Behind them, they could hear the soldiers shouting in rage and confusion. Another energy blast hit the ceiling, sending rocks crashing down. How did you know about their eyes? Kalira asked as they ran. You always squint when I open the curtains in the morning, Marcus said. Figured your whole species might be light sensitive. They reached a fork in the tunnel. Marcus turned left without hesitation, but Kalira pulled him to a stop. Wait, my scanner. There's something you need to see. The small device showed a much larger Zextheri ship landing in the valley below the mountain. More dots appeared on the screen. At least 20 more soldiers deploying. They're going to surround the mountain, she said, her translator crackling with fear. We'll be trapped. Marcus studied the scanner, his face illuminated by its soft glow. How many people are in that valley town? The one 20 miles from my cabin. About 3,000, Kalira said. Why? Because your people aren't just going to let those humans live, are they? Not after they find evidence of your crash. Kalira felt sick. He was right. Standard protocol for exposure incidents was complete sanitization of the area. 3,000 innocent humans. We have to warn them, Marcus said. What? No, we have to hide. Going down there is suicide. Marcus turned to her, his face serious in the dim light. Kalira, when I found you in that crashed ship, you expected me to be a monster, to hurt you, to use you. But I helped instead, because that's what humans do. We help each other. And now 3,000 people need help. But they'll kill you. Us. Maybe. He checked his backpack again. But I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try. You can stay here if you want. The cave system is complex. You might survive. Kalira watched him start to walk away, her heart's pounding. Everything she'd been taught said to hide, to protect herself. But everything she'd learned from Marcus. Wait, she called out, her translator carrying her voice down the tunnel. Marcus stopped. I know how to send an emergency broadcast, one that will reach everyone in the valley at once. But I'll need parts from my crashed ship. Marcus turned back, a smile spreading across his face. The ship that's probably surrounded by soldiers by now. Yes. Kalira found herself smiling too, despite their desperate situation. You humans must be rubbing off on me. I'm starting to make terrible decisions. Welcome to being human, Marcus said, extending his hand. Ready to save a town. Kalira took his hand. Ready. The night was their ally as Marcus and Kalira crept through the forest toward her crashed ship. The Zextheri soldiers had set up bright floating lights around the crash site, creating circles of harsh white illumination in the darkness. 8 guards, Kalira whispered, checking her scanner. And the ship's core is still active. That's good. We can use it to boost the broadcast signal. Marcus nodded, his face smeared with mud for camouflage. What's the plan? I need 3 minutes inside to configure the emergency beacon. But she hesitated. The broadcast will give away our location to every Zextheri in the sector. Then we better be quick. Marcus pulled something from his pocket. Small paper tubes with fuses, used to do mining work. These should make a nice distraction. Before Kalira could respond, rustling in the bushes made them freeze. A Zextheri patrol was passing barely 10 feet away. Kalira held her breath, feeling Marcus tense beside her. The patrol stopped, and for a horrible moment, she thought they'd been spotted. Then Marcus sneezed. The patrol spun toward them, weapons raised. Contact, one shouted in the Zextheri language. North sector. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Marcus threw his makeshift explosives in opposite directions. They went off with deafening bangs, sending the patrol diving for cover. Through the chaos, Marcus grabbed Kalira's hand, and they sprinted toward the ship. 2 minutes, he shouted, taking up position by the damaged hull. I'll hold them off. With what? Kalira asked, climbing through the broken window. Marcus picked up a fallen Zextheri weapon, examining it quickly. Point and shoot, right? Same as Earth guns, just prettier. Kalira wanted to tell him how wrong he was, how the neural-linked weapons wouldn't work for a human, but energy blasts were already filling the air. She had to focus, had to save those humans in the valley. Inside the ship, her fingers flew over the controls. The emergency beacon was designed for distress calls to their own people, but with some modifications. A cry of pain from outside made her heart stop. Marcus? I'm fine. His voice came back, strained but alive. 30 seconds. She could hear the soldiers coordinating, moving to surround them. The beacon was almost ready. Just a few more seconds. An explosion rocked the ship. Through the broken window, she saw Marcus fall, clutching his shoulder. A dozen soldiers were advancing on him, weapons raised. Surrender, primitive, their commander ordered. Your death will be quick. Marcus looked up at them, then at Kalira in the ship. Despite his wound, he smiled. Now, Kalira. She slammed her hand down on the console. The ship's core pulsed with blinding light as it channeled all its remaining power into her modified beacon. Her message broadcast across all frequencies, in both Zextheri and English. People of the valley, evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. I am Kalira of the Zextheri, and I carry a warning. My people are coming to destroy your homes, but one of your own taught me that humanity deserves better. Marcus Chen showed me that humans are not the monsters we thought you were. You help each other. You protect each other. And now, I choose to help protect you. The soldiers stood frozen, weapons still aimed but not firing, as her voice echoed across the valley. Their commander stared at her in shock. You dare, he began. Yes, Kalira said, stepping out of the ship to stand beside Marcus. I dare to tell the truth. And I'm not finished. Kalira stood tall despite her fear, her translator broadcasting her words in both languages across the valley. Behind her, Marcus struggled to his feet, still holding his wounded shoulder. Look at your scanners, she commanded the soldiers. The humans are evacuating. Not fighting, not attacking. They're helping each other leave. Parents carrying children, neighbors helping the elderly. They choose to save lives rather than satisfy their curiosity about us. The commander's weapon wavered slightly. It's a trick. Humans are savages. We've all seen the evidence. You've seen what our leaders wanted you to see, Kalira interrupted. She pulled up images on her scanner, projecting them into the air. Here, Marcus finding me in the crash, him treating my wounds, teaching me about Earth. Her voice softened. A supposed savage who had every chance to harm me, but chose to help instead. More Zextheri ships appeared in the sky above them, drawn by her broadcast. Among them was a vessel Kalira recognized, the personal transport of High Council member Vextra himself. Your actions shame us all. the commander said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. No, Marcus spoke up, his voice strong despite his injury. She honors you. She shows that your people can grow, can learn, can become better. Just like humans have been trying to do for thousands of years. The High Council ship landed in the clearing, its engines whipping the air into a frenzy. Council member Vextre emerged, his ceremonial robes flowing in the wind. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Kalira bowed, as tradition required, but didn't back down. Honored elder, I bring proof that everything we believe about humans is wrong. They're not mindless savages. They're complex, capable of both great violence and greater kindness. Just like us. Just like us. Vextre's eyes narrowed. You dare compare these primitives to? Yes, Kalira interrupted, breaking centuries of protocol. Because this primitive saved my life. And then, knowing our ships were coming to kill his people, he risked everything to save them too. Not for glory or advantage, but because helping others is part of who they are. Silence fell over the clearing. Kalira held her breath as Vextra studied Marcus, who met the alien leader's gaze without flinching. Finally, Vextra spoke. In 10,000 years of observation, we have never had a Zextheri defend humans this way. He paused. Perhaps that says more about us than them. The commander lowered his weapon. One by one, the other soldiers did the same. Your broadcast has reached our entire fleet, Vextra said. The humans in the valley are safe. Our ships report they have already helped each other evacuate. Most efficient. He turned to Marcus. You should have your medical facilities treat that wound. Marcus smiled. Thank you. But I think it's more important that our peoples learn to talk to each other first. Vextra's expression shifted in what Kalira recognized as surprise. Indeed. He touched his ceremonial sash. Kalira, your act of defiance should earn you exile. Instead, I name you our first ambassador to Earth. And this human. Marcus. Kalira supplied. Marcus Chen. Marcus Chen shall be Earth's ambassador to us, if he accepts. Marcus looked at Kalira, who felt her heart swell with pride and something else, something she'd learned from humans. Hope. I accept, Marcus said, on one condition, that we build this relationship on truth and mutual respect. No more assumptions about savages or primitives, just two peoples learning from each other. Vextra nodded slowly. Perhaps this is why humans advance so quickly. You are not afraid to learn, to change, to grow. He looked at Kalira. And now, thanks to you both, neither are we.